really important. I'm going to read another quote. This is from a male psychotherapist. I felt such intense hatred for my own vulnerability that I had aggressive, even violent urges. As we know from the news, shame and humiliation can produce angry, violent reactions. Today I experience myself as both vulnerable and comfortable. This is about someone who's transitioned from that phase of being conditioned by the world they grew up in to a place where they realised that expressing their emotions was very important. Now this is from Bell Hooks. This is very important. The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is not violence towards women. Instead, patriarchy demands that all males, that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves. If an individual is not successful in emotionally crippling himself, he can count on the patriarchal men around him to enact rituals of power that will assault his self-esteem. Sounds like rugby and pubs, doesn't it?
Or circumcision.
Or circumcision, thank you. Okay. So, this is from another one from Brené Brown. One of the reasons there is an intimacy deficit today is because we don't know how to be vulnerable. It is about being honest with how we feel and about our fears, about what we need, and asking for what we need. Vulnerability is the glue that holds intimate relationships together. There can be no intimacy, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, physical intimacy without vulnerability. Now, human evolution and natural female resistance to male vulnerability. Women are complicit in the imbalance. So, let's just say a bunch of millennia ago, you're hanging out in your cave, and you're there with your female partner, let's say, and you've got children in the cave, and a saber-toothed tiger comes to the cave. Through kind of evolution, you need the male figure to go out and deal with the situation, to basically scare off this tiger, or lion, or whatever threat it is. He doesn't have time to be vulnerable or emotional or break down in this situation. He needs to go deal with it. He needs to be stoic and just deal with the situation and bottle up any emotion he's having and just deal with it. So, women, through this evolutionary process, have potentially been programmed to be more attracted to male partners who are stoic and able to deal with life and death situations without breaking down and just coping with it. Now this means he won't live as long because he will get into a process and lifestyle of bottling up his emotions. Okay? So when you do that, you're just going to create more hardness in the body and you're going to die younger. So, women need to realise that we're in a pretty safe environment when it comes to our relationships now. And that this process of human evolution is essentially over. And that to support men in their spiritual growth, in their physical health growth, and in our kind of intimacy growth, we need, as women, you need to help support men to be vulnerable. This is very interesting. I got so interested in this, I started interviewing women about it. And I was interviewing men about it. Like about what male vulnerability is, and do they feel like they can be vulnerable in their intimate relationship? A lot of them are like, no, because I think my partner would reject me. Men are programmed to think that women think that male vulnerability isn't attractive, so we don't do it. Unless we're feeling extremely comfortable. So, women like to promote the idea that they're absolutely fascinated with male vulnerability and want to see it happen, and all that sort of thing. But then when push comes to shove, after doing a lot of these sorts of interviews, when a male is very vulnerable with a woman, it often can cause her to shut down and go, whoa, I don't know how to deal with this, right? Right when that man really needs her to accept him and hold him and take him through this process. So this is an important thing here, is women talk about wanting this male vulnerability, but when it really happens to you in your relationships, you need to be there for your male partner. Okay, because this is if you get pushed, if a guy becomes vulnerable for the first time in his life and breaks down with his emotions, he really needs that support. If he was rejected on the grounds that it makes a woman uncomfortable when he's emotional, he might not ever do it again his whole life. Like there could be some serious scarring. So it's a big responsibility for women to be aware of how they need to support men in this growing process.
Are you talking about their sadness or their anger?
All of it.
All of it.
I'm talking about vulnerability is emotional truth. It is expressing emotions as opposed to just saying that everything's fine all the time, which is emotional deceit, which is lying into your own body and lying into your own relationship. Any kind of lying is actually extreme violence, or expressed as extreme violence at some point in the future. So women say they want male vulnerability, but their nervous system says something else. It's that simple. A female's nervous system is tuned through evolution to want to be safe, to this sort of thing, to have these deep connections and with men. But you need to have safety first and have children, all this sort of thing. All your kind of lifestyle stuff comes from the nervous system wanting to be safe. So it's about training the nervous system as well, that you are safe if your male partner's being vulnerable. So the modern spiritual vulnerable couple, that statement will make some people feel a bit sick. Alright? And the reality is because if people are shut down enough and they think that vulnerability is weakness, we live in a culture where when people are emotional, we shun them as weak. And the reality is that being emotional and being able to express these sorts of things is the opposite. Okay? So the modern spiritual vulnerable couple are people who understand their mortality, understand that they're both going to die, and understand that they don't have to grasp onto anything. If you hang on to yourself too hard, you're going to kill yourself. Just if you got a little guinea pig and you just love it to death and you just want to hang on to it, you're going to kill it, right? So it's about constantly living a state of letting go and letting these emotions flow and understanding that emotional transparency with each other is the big connection, is the big lessons we go through in our relationships and our families and in our sexualities. And again, one of my friends keeps saying this, right tool, right time. As men especially, we need to understand that there are situations that will happen where it's best we're not vulnerable. To express these vulnerabilities, the right situation in the right climate and in the right relationship for it. And understand that being able to go into our vulnerability at the right time is good, but sometimes it's not the right time. Right tool, right time. We live in a world that still is not able to cope with male vulnerability en masse, particularly in our culture. So you need to be fully aware of this because it can make people very hostile. So again, coming back to the whole environmental issue here, once men are in a relationship or in a situation where they feel like they can open up and be vulnerable and express themselves and go into these healing processes with their partner, that's why we get into relationships, is to challenge each other and help each other grow. Right? If we're going to deny all this stuff, nothing's going to happen. Because all this sort of these big issues on the planet come from the fact that men are just, like I said before, just separating themselves from everything through this systematic shutting down of the heart. So this is a process where we can all help each other, particularly women helping men to soften. Yeah? And this is an amazing role for people to take up, men and women, to help other people, give them opportunities to soften and grow in this way. So I'm not going to talk about that much more, guys. It's just something I wanted to cover tonight.